What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another Roster Rule Series video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops to your drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. So this is another Roster Bubble Series video. And in these type of videos, I talk about a player that's on the roster bubble. Then I give a background. I talk about the competition, how they can win a spot on the roster, how they can lose a spot on the roster, followed up by predictions. So I hope you guys enjoy. Plenty more of these coming out, of course, leading up until training camp and even going into training camp. So there is that. Today's candidate is one of the more known candidates, one of the more popular candidates. His name is Matt Breida. You guys know him from his 49er days, but he played with a couple of different teams as well besides the San Francisco 49ers. And he was on the 49ers during their run to the Super Bowl. They did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, though, in 2019. So after all of that, he went to the Miami Dolphins in 2020, had a stint with the Bills in 2021, and then signed with the New York Giants in this past free agent period. Obviously, you guys can see that the Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen connection is there. In terms of stats, now let me say this. He's never really been a starter, right? You look at his snap percentage over the past few years, the highest amount of, in terms of percentage, the highest amount of snaps he got was about 39%, which tells you something. He was mostly used in terms of his prime. I don't know if he's in his prime anymore. I don't think so. Maybe he's just not being utilized like he was in San Francisco. But in his prime, he wasn't played that often, but he was still productive. In San Francisco, obviously, they had the whole rotation with him, Raheem Mostert. They still have a bunch of running backs over there right now. Trey Sermon's one. Elijah Mitchell's one. That's obviously there now. But in 2017, his rookie year out of Georgia Southern, he played only 28% of the offensive snaps. He played 39% the next year, then 29%. Then he goes to Miami, plays 19%, and then 13% with the Buffalo Bills this past season. Obviously, he does have some value on special teams, but it's not really about, when we talk about Matt Breida, we don't talk about special teams. We talk about the fact that he is a capable backup running back for this roster. Now, in terms of stats, he played all 16 games in 2017 with the 49ers. He had 105 rushes for 465 yards, 2 touchdowns, about 4.4 yards per carry, which is about average. It's actually pretty good when you consider the fact that the Giants had, 3.2 yards per carry last year. He had 1 fumble, but also in the receiving game, which is where he's also utilized very well. 21 receptions, 180 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now you take a look at the next year. He started 13 games. He played in 14, 153 rushes, 814 yards, 3 touchdowns in terms of the receiving game. Total of 27 receptions, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, total of 1 fumble as well. You take a look at his third year and his final year with San Francisco. 123 rushes, 623 yards, 1 touchdown. That was in 5 starts, 13 games total. In the receiving game, 19 receptions, 120 yards total, 1 touchdown. And going back to the last 2 years of his 49ers career, 5.3 yards per carry in 2018 and 5.1 in 2019. So once again, very good. I already talked about the receiving stats, and he had 2 fumbles that season. Now with Miami, about 2 years ago, he had 12 games played in. Then he had 1 start, 59 rushes for 254 yards. No touchdowns, surprisingly, but about 4.3 yards per carry. He also had 9 receptions for 96 yards. No touchdowns there. He did have 2 fumbles, though. And then also as well, Buffalo this past year, 9 games, didn't start any of them. 26 rushes, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.8 yards per carry. And you go to his receiving stats, 7 receptions, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. With that being said, you take a look at something, and this is more of an advanced type of thing that I looked at personally. And we talked about Saquon Barkley probably in so many videos, and if we haven't, we'll make future videos here about Saquon Barkley in the receiving game. But Matt Breida is also a big factor in the receiving game. And, obviously you guys saw the stats. Not too much in the last 2 years, but when he was in San Francisco, not just the rushing ability, but the receiving ability. And also, I talked about this in the Antonio Williams video. Matt Breida is a proven pass protector as a running back, and the Giants need that. We don't know if Antonio Williams can pass protect. We know Saquon Barkley can't. So, with that being said, Matt Breida in his career has only given up 9 pressures in 80 pass blocking snaps. That's very good. And once again, when you need everything to go right on offense this year, or at least taking a step in the right direction, use Matt Breida on third down, whether it's to get a couple of yards or it's pass protecting, once again, on third down. But also, if you want to take a look at how Breida functions in the receiving game. If you want, just look past the receiving stats or whatever. I look at passer rating. You could find it on Pro Football Reference. If you look at passer rating when they're targeting Matt Breida, like different quarterbacks, obviously Jimmy G, C.J. Beathard, all these guys. In 2018, which is when they started tracking passer rating for Pro Football Reference, quarterbacks, notably Mullins and Beathard, had 123.3 passer rating. It's really good. Also, I think Jimmy G was there at that time, so there's that. 2019, 85.6. That's not really up there, but it's about average. Look at 2020, 106.7. And then you look at 2021 with Mitchell Trubisky in some of the time that he came in during the blowouts. And you also take a look at, obviously, Josh Allen. When he was targeting Matt Breida, a passer rating of 139.6, which was the highest of his career. So what we can gather from Matt Breida before we go to the competition, now he can win and lose and stuff like that, is he's a good receiving back. He's a good pass protecting back. He'll do this stuff in the running game. And even if he's not playing 50% of the snaps, even if he's playing like 40, 39, 29, he's still productive. I bet you a lot of people, when they talk about Matt Breida with the 49ers, they think, oh, he played like 50, 60% of the snaps. That's not true. He played under 50 his entire career, and he's still somewhat productive. It's just going to be interesting how Brian Daboll and not Joe Shane, but Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka use him in the offense, if he does make the roster, of course. Competition. Deshaun Corbin, Antonio Williams, Sandro Platzgummer, Gary Brightwell. Brightwell, the 6th-round pick from last year. Sandro Platzgummer, obviously the guy out of Austria. Antonio Williams, talked about him a few videos ago. The running back from Buffalo, spent the last 2 years there on the practice squad. And then Deshaun Corbin, the rookie undrafted free agent out of Florida State. Now, how can Matt Breida win his spot? Show some skill as a blocker on third down and as a receiving threat, basic stuff as a backup running back. I bet you that when the Giants play their first team guys in the preseason, Barkley's not in the backfield with Jones. It's going to be Matt Breida. So he's going to have to make the most of his opportunities. Now, knowing Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, they might rotate some of these guys in the backfield. Like maybe they'll put Deshaun Corbin sometimes with the ones. Maybe they'll do the same with Antonio Williams. But I think Breida's going to get most of those snaps. And now in training camp, it's going to be a different story because it's training camp. But when it's preseason games, I think Breida's going to take most of the haul in terms of, the first team reps. So show some skill as a blocker on third. If Daniel Jones is under pressure because of the offensive line or something like that and he needs a simple check down, Breida's there. And Breida needs to showcase his receiving ability, basic stuff as a backup running back, and primary, of course, with the first team. And also don't fumble the football. We know in the last few years that's gotten a couple of Giants running backs who wanted to make the roster in trouble. Try not to fumble the football. How can he lose? Sinking in the depth chart, losing reps, dropping passes with the 1s, 2s, and 3s. I don't think he'll get to the 3s, but the 1s and 2s he will be with. Sinking in the depth chart is probably the worst thing that can happen to Matt Breida, and losing reps as well, whether it's, pass blocking or doing something constructive for the offense. But he really has all of the advantages right now, if you think about it. He's probably the most experienced backup running back. He's been playing since 2017. He's been on a Super Bowl, I can't say winning team, but he's been on a team that's gone to the playoffs and has almost reached Super Bowl championship. Well, in terms of, winning a Super Bowl championship. I don't know why I said that like that. But with that being said, he's the most experienced. And you take a look at these other guys, man. Sandro Platzgummer's not gotten a snap. Deshaun Corbin, not gotten a snap. Gary Brightwell played little last year. And most of it was on special teams. Antonio Williams. So, Breida has the ultimate advantage out of all these backups. And I think he's going to make the roster, as my prediction. I think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be Antonio Williams. I think it's going to be Saquon Barkley. Deshaun Corbin, I think, could make the roster. Obviously, we have time to change our predictions going into training camp, at the preseason, and at the end of the summer. But I think Breida, if you're going to say, well, is Breida going to make it? Is Corbin going to make it? Is Williams going to make it? The guy that I think is probably most for sure going to make it is Matt Breida. I think he's going to make the roster. A lot of signs point to him, and I think he's got a lot of advantages on his side. So like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops up your drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Stay tuned for more Roster Bubble Series videos. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you in the next video.